I'm Catherine Hadro. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, high-stakes meeting. President Trump hosts the leader of the Kingdom of Bahrain amid tensions in the Middle East. We're at the White House. Cost of living. Key reports reveal the state of inflation. We analyze what it means for you and a reason to be joyful. Learn more about one of the most celebrated feast days in Rome. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Our top story tonight, President Donald Trump welcomes the Crown Prince of Bahrain to the White House, calling the country a fantastic ally. The visit comes as fighting in the Middle East leaves dozens dead. And just today, Israel launched a rare airstrike in the heart of Damascus, Syria. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Catherine, as the two world leaders met, the Trump administration trying to end ongoing fighting in the Middle East, including Gaza and Syria, and to try to stop any new wars from starting, including Iran.
Outside the West Wing, President Donald Trump greets the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Bahrain. Moments later, the Oval Office, the two leaders talking business and investing, and also the Middle East.
And we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, including the most perfect military maneuver that anybody's seen probably in 50 years, which took place a few weeks ago, and Iran knocked out their entire potential nuclear capacity.
And on negotiations with Iran, both men weighing in.
And should the Iranians want to negotiate, I believe the ball's in their court. That is the true reality of where we stand today. They are the ones that stand to benefit from a negotiation.
And they do. They want to negotiate. They want to negotiate badly. We're in no rush.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also responded to a question about Syria, where clashes have raged for days between government forces and Druze armed groups, with Israel supporting the religious minority group.
Yeah, it's complicated, obviously. These are historic, long-time rivalries between different groups in the southwest of Syria, Bedouins, the Druze community, and it led to an unfortunate situation and a misunderstanding, it looks like, between the Israeli side and the Syrian side.
Israel striking the Syrian Defense Ministry, a TV anchor taking cover.
So we've been engaged with them all morning long and all night long with both sides, and we think we're on our way towards a real de-escalation and then hopefully get back on track in helping Syria build a country.
Meanwhile, Gaza, an American aid organization, says 19 Palestinians died from trampling at a distribution site. After 21 months of war, negotiations between Israel and Hamas are at a standstill.
And tonight, President Trump will have dinner with the Prime Minister of Qatar, which has played a key part in Gaza ceasefire negotiations. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
To talk to us more about the violence between Israel and Syria is Ahmed Sharawi, a research analyst with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you for joining us. We know that in Syria, government forces have been fighting against the Druze religious minority group. Why are they fighting?
First of all, thank you for having me. The Druze community has resisted state control ever since the Bashar al-Assad regime fell. That is because of concerns over the jihadi origins of the new president Ahmed al-Shara and the fear that his Islamist jihadist army and armed factions will resort to violence in order to attack minorities like the Druze and the Alawites in Syria.
And Ahmed, what is the Druze community and why is Israel on their side?
So the Druze community is an ethno-religious group. It's an offshoot of Shia Islam. They're currently in Israel, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. Israel is interested because it has a sizable Druze minority that is very loyal to the Jewish state, that serves in the army, and thus Israel seeks to preserve the interests of its domestic component. And Israeli Druze have been asking for Israel to rescue their brethren in Syria from a potential onslaught from the Syrian government forces.
Do you think this could escalate into a war between Syria and Israel?
I don't think so, because I mean Syria's military capabilities are limited. I think the Syrian people are looking forward to more stability after a bloody 14-year civil war. I think Israel doesn't want Syria to cross its red lines, one of them being attacking Druze areas. I think this will be settled in the upcoming days, given that there is a political solution that was signed earlier today in the Druze areas between the government and some of the Druze factions.
And I have just a moment with you left, but what about Syria itself? Last December, former Syrian leader and dictator Bashar al-Assad was overthrown in dramatic fashion. Since then, has the country gained any kind of stability?
I mean, it's been very hard to stabilize the country and unite all factions. Ahmed al-Shara has had the tough task of uniting Syria's multiple ethnic groups, religious groups, and create a stable system in which Syria can prosper. Of course, President Trump promised that he will issue sanctions relief in order to stabilize Syria economically. But from the events that we saw today and from the events that we saw back in March in the Alawite coast, Ahmed al-Shara still does not have control over his forces. He does not have control over all of the Syrian geography. And thus, it would be very hard to imagine that Syria will be stable in the near future.
Ahmed, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, in Iran, a massive deportation is underway right now as the country forces out around 1 million Afghans. It's one of the largest forced migrations in decades. Many Afghans have lived in Iran for years due to poor conditions in their home country. However, Iran started to crack down on undocumented refugees in January. After its recent war with Israel, deportation efforts have ramped up. There have been accusations that the Afghans spied for Israel, though evidence is lacking. The United Kingdom is also facing its own problem regarding Afghanistan after a court ordered a super injunction to be lifted.
And yesterday, the Defence Secretary set out the full extent of the failings that we inherited. A major data breach, a super injunction, a secret route that has already cost hundreds of millions of pounds.
Here's what happened. In 2021, after the Taliban retook control of Afghanistan, the United Kingdom set up a program to bring Afghans who helped Western nations to Britain. In 2022, a data breach leaked the names of the people who helped the Allies, putting them and their families at risk. The UK government, fearing that as many as 100,000 people were at risk, asked a judge to bar publication of the list. The judge issued a super injunction, meaning no one could talk about the list nor the injunction itself. Then, this past January, the government determined the leak of the list did not endanger the Afghanis as much as previously thought, and the super injunction was lifted yesterday. Today, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer addressed Parliament. He indicated there would be further inquiries into the data breach and the secret resettlement plan. Starmer added he inherited problems from the previous Conservative government. Ukrainian officials say the nation was pounded by a Russian bombardment overnight, leaving more than a dozen injured. Authorities say Russia used 400 drones as well as one ballistic missile. The strikes mainly targeted energy and infrastructure sites. Meanwhile, Pope Leo has sent packages of aid to certain areas of Kharkiv, which have been decimated by recent attacks. The shipments include food and basic necessities sent directly to families' homes. On the boxes, the inscription reads, "Gift of Pope Leo XIV for the people of Kharkiv." Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are reacting to news President Donald Trump will impose tariffs on Russia if it does not agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine by early September. Many say they welcome the president's words. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has that story. Eric?
Well, good evening, Catherine. President Trump's decision to increase the pressure on Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine within 50 days is bringing an entirely new push among Democrats and Republicans here in the Senate. Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal have their own sanctions bill, and they believe a combination of their bill, along with the president's threats on President Putin, will pay dividends.
As welcome as the president's action is, I think we need to push even harder for our Russia sanctions bill because it is broader, stronger. The president is bringing down a hammer. We have a sledgehammer.
President Trump has concluded that his efforts to get Putin to the table have to change. And the combination of weapons flowing to Ukraine and tariffs against those who prop up Putin's war machine, I think is a winning combination.
Right now, their bill has 85 Senate co-sponsors. It would authorize the president to impose secondary tariffs of at least 500% on imported goods from countries that use Russian oil and other supplies. It would hit China, Brazil, and India hard.
We all know who Putin is. Putin does want peace. From my standpoint, I think Trump's being very generous. I think we ought to have ought to have sanctions, we ought to have tariffs immediately because he's not going to change.
But not everyone's on board.
Are we really going to have an embargo on India and on Turkey as well? Half of the EU buys oil and gas from Russia. Many of them can't immediately shift. So it's a really, really terrible bill.
Senator Josh Hawley says the president is very angry with Putin.
He thinks he's not serious about getting a peace deal. The president said, we've got to make him serious about it. So I think he's pretty focused on it.
Democrats hope the Senate will take up a sanctions bill shortly.
If the president wants to try in a war that's been going on, since 2022, if he wants to try to, for 50 days, we're going to hammer down and find something, or we're really going to drop the hammer on the Russian economy, that would make me feel good.
Whatever caused, Donald Trump to realize that he was essentially being played the fool by Vladimir Putin, I'm glad he finally seems to have woken up. Let's see. It's always one day at a time.
And I've learned just a short time ago from my sources that Senate Majority Leader John Thune is pumping the brakes on expectations of bringing the bill to the floor for a vote. Right now, he says that he is letting the president make all the moves when dealing with Russia. Catherine?
Eric, before you go, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy was testifying before Congress today. Any highlights of that hearing?
Oh, it was a great hearing. I got to tell you, there were lots of highlights, one of which is Secretary Duffy told members of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee today that it's going to take about $31.5 billion, that's billions with a B, to build a new air traffic control system for the country. He added time is of the essence, and as we've been reporting, air traffic control systems across the country are in desperate need of an overhaul. Some are still running on Windows 95 computers with floppy disks. Secretary Duffy announced a plan back in May to build a new air traffic control system by 2028. Under President Trump recently passed his big, beautiful bill. Well, $12.5 billion was allocated as a down payment to get that started. But that still means that Congress has to find an additional $18.5 billion just to improve the air traffic control system. And Catherine, Secretary Duffy said that it's going to take about 6 to 8 months to pick a company to then update the system, and then another 6 to 10 months to debug it before it's deployed into the country. Wow, long time.
Absolutely, Eric. Thank you so much. A federal appeals court upholds West Virginia's ban on the abortion pill mifepristone. The ruling comes after one of the makers of the abortion drug sued the state, saying the FDA approval of the drug overrides the statewide ban on abortion. The federal court disagrees, saying it does not prevent states from making their own decisions on restricting drugs. The state's Governor Patrick Morrisey celebrated the decision and says West Virginia will always be a pro-life state. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including citywide devotion. We'll take you to Rome and show you why today's Feast of Our Blessed Mother is celebrated all month long. And should we brace for more rain this summer? A warning from the forecasters. Welcome back. With France on the brink of a financial crisis, the Prime Minister has proposed a way to save money, but it's stirring up a load of controversy. His proposal is to cut 2 public holidays. The first, Easter Monday. The Prime Minister is questioning the day's religious importance. The other, Victory Day. His reasoning? It comes in a month that already has 2 other public holidays. He argues the cuts would save the country more than $51 billion. France currently has 11 official holidays per year. The stock market was near record levels this morning amid a better than expected update on inflation. A new report says inflation slowed by more last month at the wholesale level than economists expected. This comes amid a report released yesterday saying President Trump's tariffs might be pushing up some prices on U.S. shoppers. Today's findings could give the Federal Reserve confidence it can resume cutting interest rates. We turn now to Stephen Cates, financial analyst for Bankrate. Stephen, great to be with you. First off, tell us a little bit more about today's news on inflation and what's behind these better than expected numbers.
So one of the things I think to set the stage, yesterday we had the consumer price index report. This morning we had the producer price index report. Those are kind of two sides of the same coin in a way. The consumer price index is measuring the prices that consumers are paying. The producer price index is the prices that wholesalers are receiving for their services or their goods. And what we're seeing is that there is some increase to the price of goods measured by both. Now, what the producer price index report this morning shows on the face of it is that it was flat. And generally that's a good thing, but we had some offsetting numbers. The services number fell, the goods number rose. Those offset to give us sort of that flat number, but we are seeing underneath that goods prices are rising, and we saw the prior month in May that was revised upward, which is showing that prices actually were higher than expected in prior months.
How are President Trump's tariffs factoring into inflation? What can you tell us there?
So one of the interesting things about this is it's an amazing case study at how long it takes for some of these things to start to actually impact the economy at the consumer level. And things are taking much longer than anybody really expected. When they were implemented in April, we expected some increase in the following report. Nothing came. Same with May. We're just starting to see some impact of that today and on select goods. So things like new and used cars, which you'd expect, given the amount of parts and resources we're pulling from other countries, you'd expect those to rise. They haven't. A lot of that is due mainly to weak demand from consumers. And so we were seeing a lot of dealerships give incentives and offers, which are ultimately lowering the prices on those goods. But other things like apparel, pharmaceuticals, those are things that we import a lot of. Those are starting to see some prices rise.
There is a chance the slightly improved or the flat outlook on inflation could lead the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. What do you think? Will they, and should they do so?
So will they? Yes, but not in July. They may in September. I think the expectation is that it will still be September and possibly December. There's a lot of data yet to come through. We're going to get more data coming out on inflation and costs again later this month as well as next month. But the Federal Reserve has held interest rates higher than anybody would have expected throughout the beginning part of this year. So they have a little bit of room to probably drop those. And so I do think that they'll continue that path that they planned. But July is basically out of the question.
And quickly, Stephen, Bankrate recently published an article saying fewer Americans are now working a second job. Put that into perspective for us, and why is this important?
So one of the interesting things about the second job numbers is that it's a little bit counterintuitive, because people tend to work second jobs more often when jobs are plentiful. And today, the sort of rise of gig work, think your Ubers, your DoorDash drivers, it's easier than ever to get those kind of positions because you can set that up. You can do it on your own terms. You can kind of work those things whenever you want, as opposed to you look back to sort of times, and data from the 90s, those didn't exist. You had to go be on premises for a second job. So it's easier than ever to have one. But the fact that people are working fewer of them is one of the is evidence that the labor market is continuing to weaken, because when fewer jobs are available, there are fewer to go around for everyone, including those who actually want to work a second one.
Really interesting. Stephen Cates, thank you for your insight.
My pleasure.
Amid a string of torrential rain and downpours across the U.S., forecasters are keeping their eyes on a new disturbance in the Gulf Coast. The potential storm is a broad area of showers and thunderstorms forming over the Florida Peninsula. The National Hurricane Center says the system will drift west into the Gulf, where it has a medium chance of becoming a tropical depression. The system raises concerns for another significant rain and flooding event. Up next on EWTN News Nightly in 1251, tradition holds our Blessed Mother appeared to an English priest, and the devotion it sparked would carry on through the centuries. We'll show you why it holds such a privileged place in Rome. Plus, earlier this week, we told you about the Notre Dame student using his appearance on national TV to fight world hunger. We have an update on how he's doing. As we mentioned earlier, today is the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Processions dedicated to her are taking place throughout the world, especially in Rome, where festivities are planned for the entire month of July. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Sedergren has more.
No feast is celebrated in Rome like the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Beginning in early July and continuing throughout the month, Romans are expressing their deep love for Mary through countless masses and processions held in her honor. The celebrations revolve around today's Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which venerates the Blessed Virgin Mary as the patroness of the Carmelite order and commemorates her protection and spiritual motherhood.
Over the
centuries, the Carmelites have helped the faithful to discover Mary, specifically under the title of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Thus, throughout the many centuries during which the Carmelites have been present in Rome, numerous feasts dedicated to Our Lady of Mount Carmel have developed. The one here at Trasportina is among them, and perhaps the most prominent, because we're on Via della Conciliazione in front of St. Peter's Basilica, but also the one celebrated in Trastevere, as is well known, expresses the Marian faith of the Roman people.
Esprimono la fede mariana dei Romani.
The feast also celebrates the Blessed Virgin's gift of the brown scapular. According to tradition, Our Lady of Mount Carmel appeared to English priest Simon Stock in 1251 to give him the brown scapular, a part of the Carmelite habit. While religious wear a larger brown cloth joined over the shoulder, laity can also wear a small scapular consisting of two pieces of brown cloth joined over the shoulders by straps.
Lo scapolare è questo piccolo abitino di stoffa.
The scapular is a small habit made of cloth, which symbolizes the desire to follow Mary, who points us toward her son. But it is also a reminder of the baptismal garment. The scapular is, in a way, like the garment of baptism. It recalls the journey of following the gospel. Anyone can become part of the Carmelite family by wearing the scapular and making their own the gifts that the Holy Spirit has given to Carmel.
I doni che lo Spirito Santo ha fatto al Carmelo.
The brown scapular is considered by many a silent prayer for Mary's intercession and a reminder of her constant presence. It is not only a sign of love for Our Lady by those who wear it, but also expresses a desire to imitate her virtues and love for Christ.
I grew in this devotion when I was trying to grow in the virtue of fear of the Lord. And I felt struck to wear the scapular. I mean, it's pretty public. You see it. People see it through my clothes. They'll come up to me at bars or when I'm out and they'll say, "What is that?" And so it's a chance for me to be able to evangelize about the faith and just be really proud to be Catholic. And any devotion you give to Our Lady, you're also giving to God, and God will never be outdone in generosity. So I think just whatever I've given to her, whatever little amount it is, she's given back to me in tenfold.
In the Eternal City, a 12-day celebration of Our Lady of Mount Carmel begins today through next Sunday. It will culminate with a floating Marian procession in a boat down the Tiber River, a Roman tradition that dates back nearly 500 years. In Rome, Benedict Sedergren, EWTN News Nightly.
And finally tonight, an update on a story we brought you earlier this week about the student at the University of Notre Dame who's using his appearance on a network TV show to fight global hunger. Austin Barron has advanced to the finals of American Ninja Warrior Season 17 on NBC. Monday night, he was one of only 9 contestants to complete the obstacle course. The finals are set for early next month. Barron started Not Perfect, which has delivered tens of thousands of meals to disadvantaged families. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Catherine Hadro. Good night and God bless.